So if you want to talk about an anime of the season underdog, we have to talk about Heavenly Delusion, because this week's episode to me was like the definite staple of a series. Like, this really piqued my attention. Like, I have been into it since about, I think week 2 is when I jumped onto this train, and I didn't know what to expect of it. I thought it was kind of weird at first, but I was going along with it because, it had promise, and I really liked the premise, which for me is enough to continue on with the series. However, it kept piquing my interest with the fact that we have two separate stories going on, and they take place in the same realm. The main story, in my opinion, even though it kind of feels like they're just kind of equal, but this one at this point in time gets definitely more of the attention, which I'm totally fine with because this is my favorite part of it. But both of them deal with this disastrous civilization that takes place. Well, it says it's 15 years ago, but it's like a dystopian civilization, and there's these man-eating monsters just roaming the world. And everybody has these things that they want to get done, and everybody has their backstories. And our main two characters are Maru and Kuriko. While we follow these two throughout Japan, Maru wants to find heaven. He was told that this is the place he needs to go, and he will find something that is very needed to him. But in order to get there, he wanted to hire a bodyguard, which would be Kuriko, to get to there. And while they're going around Japan, Kuriko has a quest of her own. She's looking for two specific people, Robin and the Doctor. Now, we have these two things going on, but at the same time, there's a lot of conflict going on with the past of everybody involved in the stories. The fact that Kuriko is actually her brother. That's really confusing. The brother of hers, the brain of him isn't her, and so he's functioning in his sister's body. So he also wants to find those two people to get some missing clues to the puzzle, while at the same time Maru is falling in love with her, even knowing the fact that it's a guy inside a girl's body. And there's a lot of just inner emotion, turmoil, and conflict going on in that route. Well, on the other side of the street, we have these kids in this isolated shelter that have never seen the outside world. It's all manufactured, and we have these scientists, millionaire, rich people raising these children. And the older they get, they're getting more curious about things like the outside world and sex and all of these things that normal kids are getting used to, and they want to know more about this outside world, what it's really like. And it's also a very interesting plot point and storyline. I just really hope we get more of that here before the end of the season, considering we're on episode 8. But that's just kind of the basic, simple premise. I didn't want to spoil too much or get too deep into it, because if that's what you want, jump right into the series. However, I just wanted to talk about this week's episode and how much of a staple it is. It hit every check mark for me in the good series, good episode category. And that's something that definitely not every series does. I mean, this season alone, we have obviously Oshinoko, Jigoku Raku, and like I said earlier, Heavenly Delusions, like we're doing right now, or Tengoku Daimakyo. My bad. And those three are really hitting home for the checkmark boxes of everything that I really enjoy. Granted, obviously Jigoku Raku is not my... It's not that it's not my forte. It's just not a series that I feel is as in depth, but at the same time still very pleasurable and enjoyable. Now, like I said, we also have Konosuba and The Ancient Mage's Bride and a few others that are obviously noteworthy. But this, to me, brought this straight to the top. This episode dealt with a lot of things for character growth and plot development, and even the characters that we get to see in this episode are some characters that we only get to see for this episode and a tiny bit of the last one, but you felt for them. The way that they wrote the script from the series manga is just so good. Like, we'll just do a quick cap of this episode and then just talk about it for a minute. So it starts off with some symbolism. We get this raven or crow, right? Obviously symbolizing somebody's probably going to die. And we see these people who are a little cultish type of group that want humans to be humans, not to be experimented on, because this leader's like misguiding these people and telling them that they're experimenting on people and putting the monsters' ligaments onto humans and experimenting on that, because look at her leg. She got this metal leg and she's seen this person in there that's being like in a million pieces and ran on these machines and everything. So these guys are protesting this whole thing. Granted, we'll get into this towards the end of the episode, but one of the protesters ends up throwing a rock at the other people that they're claiming to be bad guys. And the guys throw the rock back and it knocks over their so-called leader. And guess what? She ends up dying. And we get this like really cool scene of like them going back to the hideout that they have, only to find out that her second in chain is pretty much plotting this whole thing going on from right now. So she dies, the leader dies, and he's like, this is our opportunity, right? We have anger and resentment, and we can go rush these guys and do something from there. Now that the monsters in the basement have been taken care of, because that's kind of the previous episode going into this episode, but the monsters in the basement got taken care of by our main two protags, because they get sucked into this village, or city, and in the city they think that these guys are the good guys and the other ones are the bad guys. That was what we're led to believe. So they try to trick them into saying that there's these monsters in the basement that they're going to try to use to kill everybody. Well, one thing leads to another, and they kill the monsters, and they get asked to do something by the doctor that's supposedly mutilating people with demon parts. Back to the story. The second in command now is pretty much telling everybody that, the leader was subjected to inhumane experimentation, and that, this is all their fault. We need to go get them. So everybody grabs their weapons and they start going like they're going to raid this place and kill the doctor and everybody in there. But we get back to our two main characters with the doctor himself, and we get to finally see him kind of up close. And he's got this eye patch on with a nice, kind of comb over, timid personality, not really vocal or loud or bold. And it looks just like a soup kitchen. We come to find out that he's been building these like ligaments and things for people that are missing joints and arms and legs, so that they can actually use their have mobility to live their lives, even in this type of civilization. Now, right now the doctor's leading them to somewhere that he wants them to check out with the powers that he has, because our main boy has the power pretty much for these monsters and demons to pretty much touch them and like destroy their core somehow. It's just like a supernatural power, only he can do it. And so they get up to the top and they open this curtain, and they know this is the curtain that the leader was talking about with the quote-unquote mutilation experimentation. And they open it up, and we see this lady, and it's just this lady hooked up to, the iron lungs and a bunch of monitors and things keeping her very much alive. Now, this is clearly not exactly what they were expecting whatsoever. We were expecting this monstrous being, and all of that stuff, and we get this lady just there, no arms, no legs, hooked up to machines, one eyeball only. And the thing is, he wants them to take her out, because if she dies, she is infected with the disease that will turn her into the monster, or infected whatever. It's not necessarily a disease, but she has it. And if she dies without this crystal being destroyed like he wants him to do, she'll turn into a monster. We come to see that you can communicate with her through a tablet, which I'm guessing reads from her thoughts, and then you got to talk into the speaker so she can hear you. So he's got this whole thing set up. And we see that she says to them in the tablet that before she ends up dying, because they wanted to make sure, consent, that she wants to see the night sky one more, or not the night sky necessarily, just the sky one more time before they take her away. And obviously the doctor really cares about this concern, and just her as in general. It's definitely somebody important to him. We don't know exactly, obviously, but it's something important. But they don't tell him that. She just asks him, the doctor, if they can get her to at least there, which is like across a hallway. I'd say about 5-6 feet. So about, 10-15 feet from her bed right now to the porch, or not the porch, the balcony. So the doctor gets all the cables and he starts expanding them, and he needs a little bit more, and he turns off the heart rate monitor because, well, we know what's going to happen. So, they're getting her out, and they have her on like this, I wouldn't say that's not a dolly or a 6-wheeler, but just a little cart. And they're pushing her out, and the doctor's kind of stretching the extension cable as he's doing it, obviously. And it gets a little pinch, and she writes in there, that hurt, you idiot. And like, he kind of, laughs it off, like her calling me an idiot. Oof. Obviously, kind of just trying to numb that down. And we go back to that group or cult, if you want to call them, and they are getting ready to raid this place. They are outside, and one of them kills one of their guys. So they start charging in, and everybody that's in this place that they are raiding is just innocent little kids and adults and families, and they're going to escape right now to get out of there because their lives are more important than this. So this is where things really start to hit. They are coming, not necessarily to them, but they are raiding, as I say. And she's kind of just sitting there enjoying the sky one last time. And as she's doing this, the doctor's very much staring at her, and she looks at him, clearly making good eye contact. You can tell these two have formed a very deep bond over the time. And our main protagonist, sees this happening, and he just feels, he puts his hands on her because she's ready. He gets the crystal, and while he's getting ready to crush it, we see the tear flowing through her eyes, of her nice sky blue eyes, as she's looking at the doctor one last time. With a tear and a smile, she passes away. We get to go out of there, and we see him and her, the main protags, sitting by the body. Obviously, she's looking at him as he's looking at his own hands in disgust, knowing at the fact that he can take away life just like that. And at that time, the doctor's like, it might have been easier just to let her turn into a monster, but I couldn't do that. However, the two of our main tags noticed that she wrote something on the tablet right before she passed away. So they show the doctor, because this is clearly for him. And as we see it, her last words are, "Thank you for letting me die as a human. Thank you. Thank you for giving me your eye. And thank you for everything. I love you." This whole time, he gave her his eyeball. He treated her for years just to try to save her life, without showing about it. And he cries. He bawls, understandably showing all this emotion. He's probably been holding back for years to not just be strong for her, And after that, they wrap her up in a blanket, and he's carrying her out with those two. And, he's like, the rest of his people in the hospital, the uppers, are like, did they do this to her? And he's like, no, she died naturally, as we pan to our MC's hands, knowing that he did it and feels so guilty about doing it. And everything that he's now going through is just crazy. Like, not only is he conflicted with, liking somebody that is actually a male in a female's body, being alone, not exactly knowing what his destination technically is, and fighting this mental battle. He's got so much going on in his head. It's just insanity. And now he's got this on top of it. But we get to see a flashback from the doctor and how, it originally kind of started as this small place. And he'd make these tools to help people, and it made her happy when he did that. And, he's not really a doctor. He was just helping people out. And it made her happy, so he continued to do that. And the only reason he really kept that place was because of her. And now that she's gone, he has no reason to, so he didn't really care that it got taken over in the first place. But then we go back to the extremist group, and the second in command has taken over the big building, and he is ready to change something. We don't know what yet, but the bad guys were pretending to be the good guys, and the good guys that were supposed to be the bad guys were actually the good guys all along. However, we do get a quick cut to one of the demons surviving underneath the car, so that was pretty neat. But right after that, we find out that Robin, one of the people that they are looking for, actually was there a while ago. And that he got advice from the doctor about learning how to treat things and such. So that gives her hope. But at the same time, they're got to watch the doctor now in order to find out what he knows at the end there. And so our male protagonist getting jealous about the fact that she's more concerned about Robin than him right now at the moment with everything going on in his head. He just feels like he's just left out. And so we go to the rooftop and we see the doctor just coddling her body, looking at the sunset, contemplating right now, crying into his arms with a revolver in his hand. Sun fading on just the both of them. Absolutely phenomenal stills. And as he puts the snub nose up to his head, absolute lacklust of any emotion in his eyes. The crow from the beginning flies away, and he ends his life on the balcony. And as our two main protagonists rush up, we now find out that she's not going to find out any more information about him, so they're going to have to keep chasing around. And he now realizes that he's just the total opposite of Robin and the other one, because his hands only bring death while theirs bring life. And now he's got this other just huge conflict going on. And so she tries to comfort him, knowing that, he's right in front of me. He needs help. My problems are my problems, but this is really big right now. So she tries comforting him, telling you're actually saving people by killing these monsters with your hands. You're not just, a terrible person. And while that all happens, the doctor had this coin in his hand. And that coin turns out to be the same exact logo that's on her pistol, and the logo they've kind of been chasing around this whole time. And that is the end of that episode's main plot, quote unquote, the one that I was mainly focusing on, not the facility of the episode. But that was so good. The way that we get to literally feel attached to this lady and the doctor, so much so without knowing details at all before she passes away, and to find out more details later. Even with all that going on and the sub-conflict of good guy, bad guy actually being flip-flop, and then their own mental struggles on top of it, it was such a fantastic episode. There was nothing wrong with it. It is so good, and I'm really sad there's only 4 episodes left. I don't know where it's going, and I don't know where it ends. But, man, I am pumped, and I cannot wait for this to continue. And not to mention, that outro song that we got special for this episode was so good. Even if you don't watch the series, I highly recommend you listen to that special outro track, which I'm pretty sure you could just find on Mal or something. But I like it when they do that too, because it's a special episode. They went out of the way to do that on top of everything that they pounded into this episode. And then I'm very excited to see where this goes, and I hope everybody at least gives this show a shot, because like I said, we don't get shows like this all the time, and it's not getting the attention it deserves. It deserves, honestly, to be up there in the tops, but it gets overclouded and over-diluted. And it sucks when that happens, but hey, that's what makes gems, and videos like these help people find them. This has been Squids, and hey, if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and commenting or even subscribing. That would mean a lot to me and the channel. But with that, I think I'm going to head out. So this has been Squids, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.